What should your blood pressure be when you're over the age of 70? That is a great question. I'm going to try to answer that as best I can in this video. The short answer, if you don't have a long attention span, is going to be this. It's 119 over 79. That's the number that you should be shooting for, or anything lower than that. But let's get into the nitty-gritty and find out, is this really true? And what are the guidelines as to what your blood pressure should be as you age? Firstly, let me say this. The reason this is so confusing is because there's conflicting information on the internet as to what your blood pressure should be as you get to be older. And it's confusing. I get it. I totally understand, because there's so much information out there and the guidelines have changed. The numbers have changed of what constitutes high blood pressure, but some of that old information is still on the internet. So when you Google this information to find out what exactly is a normal blood pressure for my age, you can't find it, or you get conflicting information between what your doctor says, what you see on the internet. You can see different doctors and they can have different opinions. And that's the second biggest trouble, is that doctors don't all agree on what a normal blood pressure should be for people as we age, because again, there's conflicting information within the profession, because some doctors are just yes men. They just do exactly as they're told. They're almost like robots, that they don't think at all, they just do. There's no thought process. And the reality is, and no one really wants to speak about this, is because if you actually had an original thought as a doctor, you might be fired from your job, your employer, the insurance company, or the government may come down on you if you dare as question their authority. If you're a doctor and you question the authority, and the authority is your employer, everyone knows that you're not even considered a doctor anymore. You're considered a provider. Think about that for a second. Your doctor is not called a doctor. He's called a PCP, which is kind of funny because that's the name of a drug, but a primary care provider. He's not a primary care doctor, he's a primary care provider. He's there to provide the algorithm that allows you to take drugs. If he doesn't follow protocol, he might lose his job, get sent back to wherever he came from, and the company will just find another provider to provide the services that are preordained already in the algorithm of healthcare. Many doctors know that the blood pressure guidelines are very often researched by the very manufacturers that make the medications that are going to benefit from coming up with guidelines that no one can pass. When you get to a certain age, it's almost impossible to walk into a doctor's office and walk out without any medication prescribed. And there are companies that benefit from that. And if they're the ones making the guidelines, then it's almost impossible to pass their test. Lastly, there is conflicting research as to what blood pressure should be when people are of a certain age. And a lot of times when the guidelines are designed, sometimes they just ignore the research that conflicts with a certain agenda. This, of course, is very frustrating for doctors who want to think and patients who just want the truth. This is what it boils down to. These guidelines set out by the American Heart Association, the American College of Cardiology, the National Institutes of Health, the Harvard Medical Schools. They are very good guidelines. They give us an idea of what we're trying to expect. But unfortunately, there really are no guidelines for certain ages. So there is no guideline for 65 years old, 70 years old, 80 years old, 90 years old. The guidelines are here and they include everyone regardless of age. So if your blood pressure is 119 over 79, and you're 10 years old, that's normal. If you're 90 years old, that's normal. If your blood pressure's systolic number is between 120 and 129, but the diastolic is still below 80, you're considered to have elevated blood pressure, regardless of whether you're 10, 20, 40, 60, 70, 80, 90 years old. So age doesn't matter with these guidelines. If your blood pressure systolic number is between 130 and 139, and or the diastolic is between 80 and 90, or 80 and 89, then you are considered stage 1 hypertension, regardless of age. Stage 2 hypertension is where the systolic is over 140 and the diastolic is over 90, and thus you're now in stage 2. A crisis would be 180 over 120, which you should probably stop watching YouTube at that point and go to a doctor or go to the emergency room. But the point is, the experts have now concluded, as of now, that it doesn't matter what your age is. It's irregardless of these findings. All this confusion leads to people wanting to know, instead of taking medications, how can I naturally lower my blood pressure? And the short answer is you have to become a healthier person. But there are a number of things that you could do to naturally lower your blood pressure. Many of these things you could do in conjunction with taking medication. And then as you get healthier, then you can start to slowly lower your blood pressure medication if it's okay with you and your doctor. So I have a complete guide of all the things that could possibly work to lower your blood pressure, and they're all natural, and I'm giving it away for free. Watch this video, take notes. And I know it's a long video, and I'm not apologizing for it because I'm giving you a complete guide. If you just sit down and watch this darn video and take notes and start making action steps of things you can do, and talk to your doctor about, hey, I'm gonna start changing my lifestyle. Let's monitor the blood pressure, and if the blood pressure starts going down naturally, maybe we can wean off these blood pressure medications. This is my pride and joy. It's a great video, and I give it to you for free.